Between 2023 and 2028, China will produce as much renewable capacity as the rest of the world combined, plus an additional 30% on top of that. And you'll hear from Western politicians that China is the biggest CO2 emitter in the world, but what they're not telling you is that a huge percent of China's emissions come from manufacturing goods for the West. Even though the West is exporting so much of their emissions to China, when you divide by their massive population, China only emits about a third as much as the United States does per person. How is the world's biggest emitter also responsible for saving the world from climate change? The answer is as contradictory as it is common sense: Marxism. Turns out you have to own all of the world's factories in order to transfer them to renewable energy. And that's what China's been busy doing while the West self-implodes over culture war issues, looking for a scapegoat to blame all of capitalism's problems on. Now remember for the rest of this video that China's 17% of the world's population, doing the majority of the world's work fighting climate change. In one single year, China built as much new solar capacity as all of Europe or the United States have in their entire history. China accounted for 85% of the whole world's new solar capacity in 2023. And China's supply chain is now responsible for 95% of new solar panels in the world. The history books about this are gonna be pretty unbelievable. In 2016, China gave Akon, smack that all on the floor, Akon, $1 billion of credit to build solar infrastructure in Africa. China is also responsible for the majority of the world's new wind energy. China's also building the majority of the world's new nuclear energy. And they've successfully created a nuclear reactor that cannot physically melt down. What? China is also pioneering hydrogen ammonia fuel technology, where they have giant solar arrays near ports that ships can go to refuel renewable hydrogen or ammonia fuel. It's eliminating millions of tons of marine diesel annually. And in terms of hydropower, nobody can even look at China. They are already responsible for the Three Gorges Dam, the biggest dam in human history. And they just unveiled a new plan for an even bigger dam that is going to produce 46 times the current energy output of the Hoover Dam. This one single project will reduce global carbon emissions by 0.53%, making it the most impactful climate action in human history. And you guys, I'm barely scratching the surface here. Like, China has planted enough trees to cover more land than the state of Texas. This is the real deal. This is actually happening. And most importantly, this is not a coincidence. China actually ranks 14th in carbon emissions per person. China is a huge country. The United States is emitting around 3 times as much per person. Compared with China, Japan and South Korea emit around twice as much per person. But no one's ever complaining about them. And if you look at the total carbon emissions of the United States and Europe and compare it to China's total carbon emissions over time, there's no comparison, especially when you divide it by their population. The West has already polluted so much to build their countries, and they got a huge head start on the world. China's built like 70% now of the entire world's high-speed rail. This is a huge deal because traveling by plane is one of the worst things individuals can do for the environment, and China's got like 1.4 billion people now using renewable energy for their rapid mass transit, and those trains are nice. I've ridden on them a lot while I was in China, and I think about them practically every day. Please, high-speed rail. And when Chinese people aren't riding the high-speed rail, they're driving in electric vehicles. China now produces and purchases 5 times more electric vehicles than the second place country, the United States. And you can buy American EVs in China, but the United States government won't let you buy Chinese EVs in America. They welcome the market competition. They already manufacture over half of Tesla's in China. And that's why Elon Musk turned on Donald Trump with his trade war, because his profits were tied to Chinese manufacturing. And that's not a coincidence. That's Marxism. That's what China's plan has been all along. Become so valuable to Western capitalists that they can't attack you, or they're attacking themselves. But we're getting too fascist now, and Donald Trump is attacking China as much as he can get away with. So that's why it's important for Americans to resist the descent to fascism, delay it as much as possible, while China saves the world from climate change. And none of this is a coincidence. The Chinese government is able to do all of this amazing work because they have sovereignty, because they own the means of production. Whoever owns the factories has the say. Look at all of the richest people in the United States. They're pulling the strings on our government like no tomorrow. Elon Musk owns the Tesla factories, Mark Zuckerberg owns the Meta servers, Jeff Bezos owns all the Amazon warehouses and everything else they do. In China, the government welcomes rich foreign investment to come invest their money so they can build like crazy, but they do not let you get carried away. It is such a nuanced, complex system with over $11 trillion of revenue, 2/3 of China's GDP generated annually by state-owned enterprises managed by the Communist Party of China. But China's private sector is huge too, because all of the richest people know that the government is creating a stable and productive environment for people to invest in. All of the biggest corporations that have a huge impact on the Chinese economy are required to have a board of Communist Party officials on them that guide the corporation in alignment with their national interests. So that's why China is able to play the long game and win. China is able to go after long-term goals and make it profitable to do so, while our government here is completely screwing over our economy in the long run for short-term profits for the richest few.